Hey, it's Bret Gregory, and I'm so excited that you're here with us today. If you're just joining us, please go to the Webinar Jam questions box and write in your city and country that you're tuning in from. And we have a great program for you today. I am, and Colleen's watching from Dallas, Texas. Welcome, Colleen. And I'll give you a shout out. So go and put your name and tell us what city and country you're tuning in from. And today we've got a very special treat. I'm going to be interviewing my good friend Ted Rubin, and he's going to be talking about return on relationships. Return on your relationships. You probably heard about return on investment before, maybe ROI, but this is taking a whole new spin on how to build your business by focusing on the relationship. So let me give you a little shout out. Lisa's from London, says, yay, Ted. Lane's from Canada. George is from Chicago. Mary's from San Francisco Bay. Elaine is from Ottawa. Great to have you here. So if you're just tuning in, put in your city and country of where you're tuning in from. We'll give you a shout out. Themby is from Canada. Claudia is from Cathedral City, and Sue's from Ontario. Another Claudia is from Berkeley. Great to have all of you here. So let me give you a quick little introduction before we get started here with Ted. Ted Rubin is a leading social marketing strategist, keynote speaker, and acting CMO of Brand Innovators. Ted's the most followed CMO on Twitter. That's pretty impressive, I have to say. And that's according to Social Media Marketing Magazine. One of the most interesting CMOs on Twitter, according to Say Media, number 13 on Forbes' top 50 social media power influencers, and number 2 on the lead tail list of the top 25 people most mentioned by digital marketers. Return on relationship, you can do, if you're a Twitter follower, you know, hashtag R is the basis of his philosophy. And his book, Return on Relationship, was released January 2013. And his latest book, How to Look People in the Eye Digitally, was released January 2015. So be sure to connect with Ted at tedrubin.com or at tedrubin on Twitter. Ted, welcome to our program. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Well, Bret, thanks so much for having me here. It's, I've really enjoyed connecting with you and some of the conversations we've had, and I'm looking forward to talking to your followers, your audience, your friends, everybody that's logged in here, just about my perspective about social media, about the world, about marketing, about how to build our businesses.
And you've got, we've got a great global audience. I'll give you a few more shout outs. So Deirdre is from Melbourne, Australia. Marianne's from Los Angeles. Yosef is from Albury, Australia. Aisha's from Jacksonville. Suren's from India. Trin is from Norway. So I love our global audience that we have here. And I just want to check in. Is the information that you're going to teach us, can it be used anywhere in the world? Does it work all over the world?
You know, it's amazing, but relationships work everywhere. So basically, what I'm doing, this is not, I mean, granted, there are different cultures, but it's all about how to connect with people. And I'm not telling you exactly how to do it in your culture, but anything I talk about, you can obviously work into, whether it's your personal life, your business life, your family. I think it really works for everything. And that's the way I build my life is everything. There are no walls between the things I do, my family, my friends, my business. They all seem to come together. And I think that's happening a lot more in the world today.
Awesome. Well, tell us, what are we going to learn today from your talk about return on relationship?
Well, what I want to do is I just want to give you an understanding of the way I see the world when it comes to connecting and using these amazing tools that we've gotten offered to us over the last number of years. Things used to be a lot different. It was a lot more difficult to find the information, to connect with people. You had to have money to go to a networking event and time to drive or to take a train or to show up somewhere. Now you can be connecting with people all the time. So, when I'm talking about return on relationship, just to put it in simple terms, it's the value that's accrued by a person or a brand due to nurturing a relationship. Whereas ROI, return on investment, is simple dollars and cents. ROR is the value that's both perceived and real that will accrue over time through things that we all understand: loyalty, recommendations, sharing. And I use it to help define and educate companies, brands, and people about the importance of creating authentic connection, interaction, and engagement. One of the things I like to say is that Facebook's done a remarkable thing. They've taken ownership of the word friend. I mean, think about that. Everybody close your eyes. Think of the word friend. and see what comes up in your brain. I will wager a bet that you're not seeing a face of a friend, but you're seeing the Facebook logo. And that's a credit to them from a marketing standpoint. This is not a bad thing. For them, they've done this remarkable thing. But we need to take back the word friend and give it value again.
I love that. That is awesome. Return on relationship. I mean, I got pretty inspired when I heard about this initially, and building greater intimacy with clients and prospects. But then you talked, when I heard you also mention how to look people in the eye digitally, I just couldn't stand it. I said, I got to talk to Ted. Tell us how you do this. This is amazing.
Okay, well, I'd love to jump into the presentation.
Yeah, please, go for it.
That's okay with everybody.
Yeah,
and
go for it.
I like to have slides because it guides me, but it also guides people, and it gives them something to kind of hold on to. And what I've been trying to say, and it's not just a message to businesses, it's a message to people in general. And it's a really important one, that you need to change your framework if you want to change your future. Things are changing. And as we've all realized in the last few years, they're changing a lot faster than they ever did before. And this isn't just like, oh, I walked 20 miles to school, uphill, both ways, through snow. You know, that story, like what you always hear from your parents or things like that. Things really are changing quicker. I mean, the pace of change is so dramatic that, I mean, platforms are changing. I mean, pretty soon we're going to have virtual reality. And this is something that was just nobody even dreamed of just a few years ago. So what happens is either our lives are good, our businesses are good. We're looking at today and we're thinking, why do I have to change something? But the problem that exists is that things are changing quickly, and we need to start thinking about how we can gear ourselves to take advantage of those changes that are happening. And you know, for me, this is welcome to the age of influence, where anyone can build an audience, affect change, advocate for brands, build relationships, and make a difference 24/7 without ever leaving your bedroom. Now, I'm not advocating that you don't leave your bedroom. Okay? I want to be clear about that. But the point I'm making is, it used to be like, just from the simplest point of view, I'm 58 years old. I graduated college in 1980. I started working in a sales job, but the day would end at a certain point. I mean, 6 o'clock would come around, and people that were just regular people that didn't want to work harder would leave. Then guys like me would start calling people on the West Coast. But then 9 o'clock would come around, and their day would generally end, and it was over. I mean, you now, yeah, for better or worse, and I'm not talking now about which is better for us as a society, but the thing is, now it's 24/7. Now, the good side of it is I can build friends all the time. It keeps me up at night, Brett. I mean, think about it. The minute, every moment that I'm up and that I'm connecting on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Snapchat, everywhere, I have the possibility of not just meeting new people, but establishing a relationship with those people. And for me, I always called myself a networker. I always talked about that. Every job I've ever had, every school I ever went to, every place I've ever visited, I've always left with a new person that becomes part of my world and part of my circles. What I didn't really understand up until the last few years is that what I was really much more than a networker is I was a community builder. Now, one quick thing I want to warn the audience about here in my head is like a Twitter feed. So I'm expecting that most people here know what Twitter's like, and they know the pace of tweets coming through that feed. So I jump around a lot. And you have two choices, and I know you guys can communicate, and Brett can tell me when questions come in, or if you say I'm talking too fast, I'm really happy to take feedback. But also, sometimes I'll go off on a tangent. And you guys got two choices. You can let me go because you like what I'm talking about, or you can draw me back and say, hey, you never finished what you were talking about, and bring me back. So that's really up to you guys, and that's one of the ways for us to engage and interact. So
let me just do a quick poll here. I would like to hear from you. Where are you most connected on social media, where you're growing your audience and building your relationships online? So for you, and that could be, it doesn't necessarily have to be Facebook or Twitter. It could be your blog. It could be somewhere, it could be somewhere else. It could be on your website. Where are you most connected? And whether that's on social media, or your blog, or your website, to grow your audience and build your relationship online. So Rashawn, Elaine, Shane, Lisa, everybody, go ahead and answer that question. So Angela says Facebook or LinkedIn. Janine's Facebook, Yosef is LinkedIn, Raj is Facebook, Claudia is Facebook. So I haven't seen any Twitters yet. I got to imagine there's a few Twitters out there. So I wanted to do that little poll.
How about, are we seeing any Snapchats? Because that is a real engaging platform.
Yeah, I haven't. Not one person has said Snapchat yet.
Okay.
Claudia's Facebook, Tazim's Facebook, Rashawn's Facebook, Cindy's Facebook. Although, to be fair, I do teach Facebook marketing, and most people have been following us on Facebook marketing. So,
and I want to make something really clear, because very
Yeah.
often I don't mention it as much. I am a huge fan of Facebook.
Great.
And the more they change their algorithms, the more I like it, because what it really means is the harder they make it for people to game the system, the easier it is for people like me that work hard and that really build relationships and really engage, because it's rewarding us for those engagements. And so I love it, just to be clear.
Oh, good. Well, and so Elaine also mentioned Google Plus, and another Elaine said Blab, and then we did have Lisa's Twitter, and then several people have been talking about Zing and webinar platforms. So it's really, there's a really diverse array of where people like to create their return on relationships.
I would venture a guess that the audience steers a little bit towards a little bit older, like not as millennial and not as Gen Z.
That tends to be the case. Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably the lack of Snapchat, but I will talk about that later. I'm not going to jump to that now, because then we're jumping too far ahead. But I'm going to jump in now again.
Go for it.
So, you know, first of all, I think what's really important, and I love that I'm hearing, is that, first of all, I hope all you guys have blogs, or you think about it, especially if you have a business. It's rarely going to be that place where you get the interaction and engagement, but it's the only one of these things you can actually own, that's yours, that nobody can ever take away, and that you can steer people to at a place where you'll always have it. So that's just a quick tip, and we can get into that later. But, you know, I talk about relationships being the new currency. And whenever I say that, there's always people in the audience, especially if the age range goes a little bit older, that says, you know, come on, Ted, relationships have always been currency. I mean, we all know the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know. The difference now is that you're building relationships 24/7, that you can connect with people you could never connect with before. You want to meet a journalist? Find their social feed and start sharing it, start engaging with them. I guarantee you, if you want to engage with a journalist, start retweeting or sharing their content. They're going to look at you, and then always make sure, and this is another important tip, that your presence, whether it be your Facebook, your Twitter bio, your Facebook page, whatever it is, tells people who you are. Don't hide that. Make it easy for them to get in touch with you, not difficult for them to get in touch with you. Now, fans, friends, followers, you know, people say, are they an audience or an asset? Now, the word audience is just part of our natural way of speaking. I use it all the time, although I try to steer clear of it, because to me, all of these things are an asset. They're not strictly an audience. And the reason I'm making the differentiation is, what do you do with an asset? People in the audience, you probably own homes, you own a car, you own things. And when you own something, you want to make it more valuable. If you buy a home, your goal is to not only live in it, but to hopefully have it increase in value and sell it one day, so that it's a growing asset. And we have to start doing that with the people we call friends, and followers. We have to start thinking of them an asset, and thinking about nurturing those relationships, building those relationships, doing for them before they do for us. I say stand out by liking them before they like you.
That's interesting. I love that.
And you know what? Here's what I say. I say do it one by one. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people say, how can I possibly do this one by one? Even if I'm a small business, I have thousands of followers. Ted, you have 350,000 followers on @TedRubin alone. How could you do it one by one? I don't mean do it to each and every single one. I mean, reach out and reach back to the people that reach out to you. What you will find is that the vast majority of people on social are lurkers, okay? They are the people that are reading content. And I will also tell you, contrary to what a lot of experts tell you, is those lurkers are probably the most valuable asset you have, because they're the vast majority, and they're the people that are actually listening and reading. I mean, think about it. Think about, you go into a cocktail party and there's a big room of people. And usually, if it's a few hundred people in the cocktail party, there are pockets of people all around the room. And there's usually 5 to 6 people who are speaking to those groups. And then there's maybe 20 people surrounding them. And maybe there's 1 or 2 people engaging with them. But all the rest are really listening. They're not arguing. They're not disagreeing or just not they're sitting there and they're absorbing the content. And when they walk away, they feel like they have a relationship with you. I call it vicariously participating.
So and in this case, you're considering lurkers as a positive word instead of a negative word. People who are, passively observing, but they really are, they're absorbing the information. They're listening.
I am using this as a total positive term, and I will tell you that even when I use the word stalkers in social, I use it as a positive term. I love my stalkers. I love the people that follow me every day, that comment and like everything I post, because you know who they are? They are the conversation generators. Because when you have a page, if you even look at most Facebook pages of most brands, there aren't that many. There's a lot of people maybe liking, but there's only a very limited amount of people commenting, and very often it's the same people all the time. And agencies, because they want to get paid to help you generate comments, tell you, oh my God, you need more comments. You've got to get more people commenting. I say that's a bunch of crap. I say keep the people that are commenting regularly and use their conversation to help generate the conversation that other people are going to be a part of. To me, conversation is the best content. And one-on-one scales, again, because the vast majority are lurkers and participate vicariously. And listen, I've heard gurus and experts and trainers say one-to-one, personal one-to-one doesn't work anymore. And I think that's utter nonsense.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm a big fan of when we're talking about, especially building business, you need to start with one customer at a time. And people don't start out by being your customer. They start out by liking you on social media, following you on your, as a friend, and then you have to give them value. And I created my entire business one customer at a time. And I think everybody does, but people lose sight when they see that you have 100,000 followers, or you've got this huge email list or this huge presence. It wasn't always that way. Everybody starts with one follower on Twitter. Everybody starts with one like on Facebook, and so I couldn't agree with you more. One by one, and I think that's something that is easy to forget.
And people talk to each other. Don't ever forget that there's these little impressions. I'm going to give your audience a challenge. Everybody in the audience probably has a smartphone, right? Okay. What I like to do when I'm speaking in public is I hold up my smartphone and I ask people, what's this called? And people will say a smartphone or an iPhone. And then I say, what's the biggest word in iPhone? And invariably, they all say I. And I like to joke with them and tell them it's not just all about them, that it's actually the word phone. Now, every one of these phones comes with apps, and everybody in the audience, I'm sure, has apps on their phones. But what most people don't realize is every one of these phones, every last one, comes with a pre-installed app that most of you don't even know exists. It's a keypad with 10 numbers, 0 to 9. And if you press 7 to 10 of them, at least here in the States, I know the number might be different overseas, you can actually hear someone's voice. It's remarkable.
It's called making a call.
And you know what? You don't have to use emoticons to express emotion, which I do all the time online when I want to lighten it. But you can scream, you can shout, you can talk loud, you can whisper, you can cry, and people know it. So I'm just going to challenge your audience for everybody in the audience, for the next 30 days, I want you to pick up your phone once a day at least and call somebody, someone you haven't spoken to in a while. It can be a friend, a family member, or a business person. And I want you to make this really easy, because the reason most people don't pick up the phone is they're worried they're going to spend too much time and you keep them on the phone. Just say, hey, it's Lori. What can I do for you today? Or how can I help you today? I just wanted to say hello. And if they want to talk, make sure that you have a little time to talk. And if they don't want to talk, just let them off the phone easily. Because, by the way, the reason guys like text is so we don't have to answer those questions anymore. How's your day? What would you like for dinner? It's a one-word answer. So people are worried about that. But I'm telling you, and the reason I want you to do this is I want you to pay attention to the way it affects your brand, because people will tell everybody. Now, I'm going to do something right now. My phone number is 516-270-5511. Feel free to call me anytime. I can give out my number on stage all around the world, because guess what? Nobody calls.
Nobody calls. Okay, so this is all right. This is huge. This is super important. So what I'd like everybody to do right now is tell us, what is your best technique that you use to get customers or prospective customers on the phone? What's your best technique that you use to get customers or prospective customers on the phone?
Brett, you know what they're all going to say? They don't use the phone.
Well, that's fine. And this is the point of this exercise, is to actually get people on the phone. Because when a lot of times clients contact me and say, hey, help me build my business. And, and I ask them, okay, so, how many customers or prospective customers do you talk to a day? And the answer is invariably 0. Right. And I say, well, okay, we need to get that number up. I mean, I want you to at least talk to 1 customer or prospective customer a day. 3's better. And we put in a system to get them, get them on the phone on a regular basis. But I mean, like you, I started in business before we had smartphones. We didn't use websites. I had a financial advisory firm, and for 15 years, we never, ever got 1 customer online. We didn't have a website because you didn't need one. That's not how you got customers. You got customers by talking to people. You got customers by picking up the phone, by going out to events. So I was raised that way, if you will. And I believe that in this day and age, we've gotten away from that. And that's been one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs, is they've left the one-by-one behind.
Brett, I can still do the cold call I learned in 1980 at my first job. So what I will also say is, one other tip in that front is, when you see an email string going around that keeps getting bigger with 20 people solving a very simple problem, be the one that picks up the phone, calls the person that has the problem, and solves it in 30 seconds, so that you don't have to have another 50 emails go out. But I do want to move along a little bit, because
go ahead.
I've got a lot more to say. And this is a point that I think is really important. So many people will say, and you've heard businesses say, well, I have a Facebook page, or I'm on Twitter, or I have those relationships. Social is just a facilitator of relationships. It's not the relationship itself. And the reason I have this guy here in the picture putting out his hand, because I love to stick out my hand to the audience, walk up to somebody, and like, now, Brett, if we just met and I walk in the room and I work out and shake your hand, that doesn't make us a friend. What that is an invitation to start a friendship. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing that a social initial connection on a social platform is. Too many people think of the like, the friendship, the follow as the end. They've accomplished what they came to accomplish. They move on to the next person, instead of understanding that what that is the door opener. And it's just really important that they think that way. So, just going to a little bit of where we're at, let's talk a little bit about how you do these things in the real world, in any world. You build trust, because trust is the foundation of everything where you do. And it's based on interacting with people. That means when you get a new friend on Facebook, even when you get a new follower on Twitter, and I know there can be a lot of them, go to that person's page, read some things, retweet something. Every day I serendipitously retweet, like, and share content of people that I don't even know that well. It's my way of getting to know them better. It's my way of showing them that I care and I'm paying attention. Sure, I have too many followers to look at everything all the time, but what I can do is jump in there and make them aware that the stuff they're publishing, somebody's actually paying attention. And be consistent. I see so many people, you guys try things. You try it once and you go, oh, it didn't work.
Right.
You make one phone call tomorrow and nobody answers, and you say, oh, that thing with Ted, I'm not calling anybody else. Nobody's answering the phone. Or the first person you call says, why are you calling me? I mean, there are nasty people in the world. I know it's hard for me to understand. I'm all about being good to people and just being nice. If you follow me, you'll see that I wear the t-shirts. I talk about this stuff. But consistency is so important. And here's another thing. 3 important words. It takes time. Yeah. None of this happens overnight. You didn't get married. You walk into a bar, there's 50 women, you walk up to 5 of them, finally one says yes, boom, you're married. Tell me in this audience who got married that way.
Right.
And if they are, who's still married that way. Be true to your word. And now, by the way, a lot of what I talk about people, there's always that one guy in the audience that says, hey, all this guy is doing is telling us stuff that's common sense. Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. And guess what? Common sense, it's not very common.
Yeah.
So think about, and what happens is we do things in the real world that we don't think we have to do digitally. It's why I wrote the book as a follow-up to Return on Relationship called How to Look People in the Eye Digitally. It's how to do the things we do in the real world, but do them in the digital world. Now, I like to say that a brand is what a business does. and a reputation is what people remember and share. So you can talk all day long in your brainstorming sessions about what your brand is and what your voice, what your message is, and what your brand voice is, and what your brand DNA is. It means nothing if it isn't what people are saying about you. Start listening. You come up with something, put it out there, see how people react. We have all these amazing platforms that allow us to hear what people are saying. And I'm not talking about just using listening platforms, or listening tools. Those things are great. I'm certainly a believer, but all they do is allow you to use keywords, get a basis of sentiment. They're not you actually listening to what the person is saying.
And if I can just jump in. So I did a question here. I want to hear what you have to say as the listeners. How do you build trust with your clients? And if you want to answer the question, how do you build trust online with your clients? That's fine. But how do you build trust with your clients and your audience and your prospective customers? So I'd love to hear from, and let's see, Cindy says, build trust by engaging, asking questions that help me get to know them and affirm them. I think that's great, Cindy.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a few points here that I think are important. And one of them is, and coming off of the last line, is start thinking reputation, not ranking. Too many of us worry about what our number is, what number we are in some kind of a rank, how somebody thinks about us. Did we win or did we lose? But it's about reputation. It's not about ranking. And very often a company that is ranked lower than another, people talk about and like. I mean, I'll just give you a perfect example. There's a study done by a company called Musylvania that I know really well. And they were asking millennials, what are their favorite brands? And believe it or not, one of the top 5 favorite brands of millennials is Walmart.
Wow.
Now you wouldn't think that, because when you look in the typical numbers rating, but the reason for it, and this also goes for about brand versus reputation, is that they love it because in most of America, it's where kids hang out. It's where millennials hang out. They a lot of places don't even have a mall. They have a Walmart.
Yep.
And they go there, they have something to eat, they walk around. It's a very different thinking. It's more about reputation than it is about ranking. Think connection, not network. And that goes to all we've been talking about. It's not just about the numbers. It's not, do you have 350,000 followers or 500 followers? But how connected are you to them? I do a lot of work with companies looking to work with influencers. And the smarter ones are looking at who the people influence. In other words, I might only influence 50 people, and you might have a following and think you influence 100,000. But if I can make those 50 people jump every time I say jump, and those people have a large audience, that connection is incredibly valuable. And what you really need, in my opinion, especially, I believe we have a real small business audience here. Connection is what will get you what you're looking for. And then loyalty, not celebrity. It's about, think about it. Who in this audience, I'm gathering there's a bunch of women here. I've heard a lot of women's names. What woman in this audience really thinks they're going to look like Annie McDowell if they use L'Oreal? I mean, there was a time where women believed that, but you're going to be a lot more likely to believe someone who you're loyal to, who you like. Lori does her makeup in 5 minutes before she leaves the house, and she looks awesome, rather than knowing that, a celebrity is, number one, getting paid to tell you they love the product and they probably don't even use it, number one, but more importantly, they probably have 20 makeup artists working on them for 2 hours. And that's just an example to get it across. But
if I could just, and I'm sorry, Tommy Stern has a really good question. He asked, how would you build relationships with editors to websites in order to get links to your site within your niche? You had a good one earlier about a journalist.
Yes.
So how about editors to websites?
Well, first of all, I want to throw a shout out to Tommy. I'm pretty sure that's Tommy Stern, a follower of mine who I interacted with just yesterday, I believe. Awesome. Might have been this morning. I lose track of time sometimes. But Tommy, it's kind of the same thing. First of all, I will warn people, let's be careful of the ubiquitous link backs that don't really add value. And a lot of social people, a lot of affiliate marketers push those kind of things, and I try to steer clear of them. But if we're talking about valuable links, well, it's about building a relationship. Link to them from your website, show them some love, share content of theirs. There's so many ways in this world right now to get the attention of people at a company. Now, granted, the bigger your following, the easier it is to get that attention. It's a lot easier for me to say it, with all the followers I have, because people might pay a little more attention. But I didn't always have this many followers, and that goes back to what Bret talked about earlier, is we all start with one. Okay, so there's that thing. Plus, again, if you build a strong relationship with your 100 followers and they react and help you and support you, you can get the attention of a lot of different people.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I love that. That one-on-one interaction, I think, is great. And there's you're so right about the if there's a big journalist, you want somebody to write an article on you, and if you want their attention, just contact them on Twitter, retweet their information, give value first before asking for something.
Oh, so important, because every day people reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty good about connecting with people. And I also do a lot of connecting because I just want to see what it is they want from me.
Sure.
Like, a lot of it is just me learning. And I can't tell you how many people I tell people all the time, if you want to be sure I'll connect with you, write me a personal note. And I would say 96% of the people do not write me personal notes.
Yep.
And a lot of them, I would say out of every 100 requests I get, I probably ignore 75. Sure. Now, what I do, the reason I accept a lot, though, that don't write notes is because on Twitter, on my background, it gives out my LinkedIn handle. And a lot, if the person follows me on Twitter and then they connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll connect. But the point I'm making is, once I connect with you, whether you wrote me a personal note or not, don't make the next connection a sales pitch. And I get this all the time. Oh, by the way, and don't call it a partnership if you're trying to sell me something. Okay? I don't want to hear how much we can help each other when the only way you're helping me is by selling me your product.
That's beautiful. So I would love to know, out there for you, who do you most want to connect with? So somebody out there, and maybe you don't know that individual's name, but maybe there's a title. Who do you most want to connect with out there that you could add some value to, and you could have a genuine partnership, not something that you want to sell to them, but a genuine partnership where you could do maybe an interview like this, where you could help someone first, add value to them first, and then develop a relationship that will eventually give you some kind of return. Who do you most want to connect with? So go ahead, and as a few of those come in, I'll read them out. So go ahead, Ted.
Okay. Well, I talk a lot about staying focused on the people versus the money. Now, please don't ever misunderstand me. Just like I'm not saying return on relationship versus return on investment. I'm saying return on relationship enhances return on investment. I'm saying the same thing here, that if you pay attention to the people and don't just be focused on the money will come. It really is as simple as just being nice. In many, many cases, you can differentiate yourself by having a culture of being nice to people. I mean, get to know who your customers are and who your prospects are. If you don't know who your people are, you might as well toss your sales time and your marketing dollars down the drain. And all these people are giving you an opportunity to know who they are. You see that slide? Anybody know what that is? Don't tell me it's just a fly, because it's not just a fly.
Is it a cicada?
It's the proverbial fly on the wall.
Okay.
So all of you guys know the expression, I wish I could be a fly on a wall in that meeting. And we've all either said it or thought it at one time or another. Whether it was, knowing what somebody was going to be selling or doing, or what our client wants, or what somebody in a relationship wants. But here's the problem. Everybody in this world, all consumers, are inviting you into their living rooms, and you're not going. I mean, I would love to hear, and Bret's asked questions, so now it's my turn to ask a question. I'd like some people to reach out to Bret and tell them if they actually bother ever, either them or someone on their team, on a daily or weekly basis, going to the Facebook pages of the people that like their posts and that follow them on Facebook, or to the Twitter feeds of the people that are your followers on Twitter, or the Instagram feeds. Just go to them and go see what they're talking about. There is so much incredibly valuable information there. So I was 21 years old. I had just graduated from college. It was my first week in my job, and my dad calls me up and he says, "So when's your first appointment?" And I said, "It's Friday." He goes, "What time?" I said, 10 o'clock. He said, "What time are you going to get there?" I said, "I don't know, about 5 to 10. He says, no, you're going to get there at 9 o'clock. He goes, you're going to walk around the neighborhood. Remember, guys, by the way, this was 1980. So there was no LinkedIn, there was no Google, there was no way possible to find that information about people. But he taught me such an incredible lesson. Walk around the neighborhood, see what restaurants are there, what stores are there, go in the building, see what other businesses in the building, get to the office at least half an hour early, and if you're very lucky, see if you can get the assistant or the secretary of the person that you're meeting with to let you in his or her office and take a look at what's on the walls. Where did he graduate college? Does she like to fish? Does she like to play golf? Is she a parent, a grandparent? And find points of emotional connection. Find things you can talk about that matter to them more than they matter to you. But they actually should matter to you as much because it's a way to get somebody talking to you. We're being given these opportunities every single day on every single platform. And I'm talking vast majority, I would say 99.8% of companies do not have anybody in their company assigned to do that. If you're lucky, maybe they're buying you again some listening software. We're using keywords, and it's not the same thing. Make sure everybody in your marketing department, and if you're a small business, everybody should be in the marketing department. Everybody should be in the sales department. And make sure each one of those people every day goes and looks at some of these people and comes back with an insight. Make it their job to come back with an insight.
I love that.
You're amazed at the difference this will make in your business. Now let's talk about a company real quick that gets it. So here's a company. Now, again, if you're from out of the country, Jetblue is only flying a little bit out of the country. You might not know them as well. If you're here in the United States, you absolutely know Jetblue. This company listens to everything that's said about them. They communicate with everybody that reaches out. If you tweet them, they will tweet you back. Now, I'm going to give you a real quick story. I'm going to try to tell it fast because I know we're running a little shorter on time. But back in 2007, Jetblue had a really bad problem. Some of you guys in this country might remember they were having flights stuck on the runway all over the country, just for hours at a time. Now, this was an operational problem. Now, there's a real message to every one of you small businesses. If you have a problem, you can't fix it with marketing. The first thing you have to do is fix the operational problem. You got to fix the product, you got to fix the service, you got to fix the mentality or the attitude of the people that work for you. But once you fix that, you have to make a decision on how do we get that message out. JetBlue made a critical decision. They didn't advertise their way out of it. They didn't market their way out of it. They decided to get very active on social platforms and be good listeners and start talking to everybody and answering the difficult questions. And 2 years later, in 2009, they were at the end of that problem. I was on a plane, one of the last planes to get stuck on a runway. I was heading from JFK to Austin for the biggest digital marketing conference in the world called South by Southwest. And my flight was stuck on the runway for 2.5 hours. And finally, I got fed up because I couldn't get, all I was getting answers was, we don't know, we'll see, we're stuck. I put in my hotspot. I tweeted out to JetBlue the way I do to almost every brand when I'm annoyed. I say, hey guys, love you guys, but today I'm having a problem. What's going on? Why are we stuck on the runway all these hours? Now, first answer I got was the typical boilerplate answer, which, by the way, I approve of, because teach your employees to give basic answers. We're sorry you're having a problem. We're doing everything we can to fix it. We hope to have you in the air soon. Nothing wrong with that answer as long as you're listening after you give that answer. Now, these people are listening, and I said, that's not good enough. That's what the flight attendants are telling me. I want to know what's really going on. We're sitting here. We're running. We don't know what to do. So over the course of the next 5 to 10 minutes, they started telling me information. Well, as it turns out, your bags are on the New Orleans plane. The New Orleans bags are on your plane. And then they got a little snarky with me. And by the way, I like that in a social media presence. Again, as long as you're listening. If you make a snarky comment and you walk away, the world can blow up on you. But if you make a snarky comment and you listen, you can either fix it if it's a problem or go along with it. So their comment to me was, still want to take off? Of course, I said, of course I don't want to take off. But my answer next was, what's the big deal? That's what every one of your customers says to you. What's the big deal? None of them understand the logistics of your business, how hard it is to fix a problem. And they don't care. And guess what? They shouldn't have to care. It's your problem. So my answer to them was, what's the big deal? Take the bags off one plane, put them on the other plane, vice versa. We'll take off. I'll even get off the plane and help you do it. So and they came back, and instead of just saying, we can't do that, they started giving me all the facts. You need to be at a gate to change bags. The FAA won't let us take off bags out on the tarmac. We need a crew. And they started giving me all the things. Now, here I am. I'm sharing this with everybody on the plane. JetBlue makes me a hero. Everybody's coming to me for information, including the flight attendants. And by the way, they answered me within 3 minutes when I tweeted out the original tweet. And then finally they come back and they go, okay, we've got a gate, we've got a crew, we're going to change your bags, you'll be in the air in 30 minutes. Now that's all most of us want. We just want to know what the end game is. We're willing to put up with another 30 minutes as long as somebody, even 2 hours, if you know what it is and you have an end game. So this is now what's really important after this is they thought it was over. I said it's not over because I laughed and I said, okay, guys, now we're taking, and they said, have a nice day. And I said, we're not done. We're all missing our parties in South by because the plane's so delayed, and parties is what South by is about. So how about free drinks for everybody on the plane? And once again, they came back and they gave me FAA regulations say you can't, blah, blah, blah. And I came back and said, you know, we want to party. I don't care about your rules. And by the way, I said it with a smile. I said it politely. I made it like a game. Within minutes, they came back and said, how about free movies? I said, you got a deal. I told everybody on the plane. Now, here's the real key. I land. I tweet out, kudos to Jetblue. They couldn't solve my problem, but they engaged me. A month later, I'm on a panel at the CMO Club Summit, Chief Marketing Officers Summit, with 200 chief marketing officers in the audience, from Fortune 500 companies down to small businesses. And I'm on the stage with the head of communications from Jetblue. Now, I didn't walk up and introduce myself and say, hey, I'm the guy that was on the plane. I just shook his hand, got on the panel. There was somebody from Citibank. I, at the time, was working at Elf Cosmetics, selling cosmetics to women. Nothing could be more fun than that and more inspirational. Whereas these guys, all they're getting on social media is complaints. And in the beginning of the conversation, Morgan Johnson from Jetblue says, you know, we do our best to answer every tweet. And when he said that, I stuck my finger at him. I said, you know, I got to give you kudos for that. And he froze and he stared at me. Yeah. And he started shaking his finger. He said, oh my God. He looks up at the screen. He goes, you're at Ted Rubin. You're the drinks guy.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I looked at him just as incredulously and said, how did you know? He said, because that was me tweeting with you. Because back in 2009, JetBlue had an escalation policy that if someone started asking questions that the person communicating with them couldn't answer, it got put in the hands of somebody that could. So in your businesses, make sure that the people that are on your social channels, if it's you, great. If it's not, make sure they have access to people that can give them the right information. It's really not that hard to do.
Awesome. That was a brilliant story. I love the, you know, it just makes all the sense of the world. When you have a company like that, they get it. They understand the return on relationship. They understand the customer service and helping out. You also understood, you know, you let them know that there was a problem. You didn't do it in a mean way. You did it in a fun way. And they took care of it, which was brilliant on their part. And here you are telling everybody about how great JetBlue is. I mean, that couldn't have been better.
And really, just to show you the way they've measured the ROI, at that point they had 5 people on the team. Now they have 35 people.
Brilliant.
So,
wow.
You know, it just proves out, you know, and then I just go to a company like Twain Read that lives it. Here's a company that had 400 Twitter followers. Full disclosure, I helped them build their Twitter following because all they did was talk about prescriptions and talk about sales. And after I started working with them when I was at Collective Bias, we started building the following. We started talking about New York lifestyle and the skyline. Why? Because when we tested out things like that, everybody jumped in and started talking to us. And again, they have case studies they've done with Twitter that show the sales they've driven off of Twitter conversations. So here's a company that gets it. And then just a quick example of a company that doesn't get it is FedEx. FedEx does what I call great campaign-based social, meaning they hire an agency, they brainstorm for an idea, they reach out over a very short period of time, they do something that's fun, but then they actually hurt their brand because it's the minute the campaign ends, they stop communicating. I'm a divorced dad. A lot of my followers know it. I have to fight for time with my daughters. I finally got to take my daughter to visit a college, to visit Duke, by getting tickets to the hottest basketball game of the year. So when her mom said, you shouldn't go with dad, you need to go with me, you know, she kind of looked at mom and said, well, do you have tickets to Duke Syracuse? And mom kind of had to say no because I was fortunate enough to have them. But the point is, FedEx was doing a campaign. They were reaching out to influencers. They were getting involved in their conversations in a very contextual, appropriate way. They started talking to me about my trip, about Duke, about my daughter. Then they sent out this tweet. And what did they do? After this conversation, they said to me, hey, we'd love to surprise you with something. Can we have your address? I get home a few days later, there's a box of Duke paraphernalia. I mean, Duke hats, Duke t-shirts, Duke blankets. Okay, all good, great stuff. I felt good about them. I didn't even think about who I used, whether it was FedEx, UPS, USPS before. So what do? They reached out to an influencer. If you guys are reaching out to people at a social, what should you expect? you should expect them to be social. Therefore, if you ask them a question, expect them to answer. If you send them something, expect them to thank you. I went to thank FedEx and I never heard back. I thanked them once, twice. I thanked them 12 times to the point where I was saying, confused FedEx, why you reached out and never followed up. Why?
Yeah.
Because FedEx has a policy that nobody on their teams can send out a tweet without 5 levels of approval. The agency was done, so they no longer were getting paid to answer or to tweet, so it just went to dead air. That doesn't help your brand. That hurts your brand.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. That was really powerful, and I just love the way that I really feel like this is a old school way of recognizing that people are human and just doing it in the modern day, in this online day and age, and just treating people like people and speaking to people and I just remember a time when customer service was so good because the owner of the business always cared about all of their customers, and it feels like we've gotten away from that. And if you just simply bring that back and you do it through this return on relationships and social media, you can really grow your business and your audience.
Bret, you know what? I think we make a great team because I want the audience to know we did not discuss this, how Bret would lead me into things, but he's led me into what my next question is, or actually my next thing I'm going to tell you guys. I'm going to tell you, and write this down and make sure you buy it, the best social media book ever written. And I promise you, it wasn't written by me, and it wasn't written by any of the social media pundits that you might have heard of. The clue I'll give you was written in 1936, and it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And to me, that book is more relevant today than the day it was written, because the day it was written, maybe you'd meet 100 people in your lifetime. Now you're meeting 100 people a second. And what Dale Carnegie tells you to do is to treat people like people, to care about what's important to them, to call everybody by their name. Go to my social presence, go to my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook, and you'll notice that every time I respond to somebody, or not every time, but probably over 90%, I call them by name, even when their name is not in their handle. Even when I have to go dig deep and find a URL or search them, I will call them by name, because there's no word in any language that's more beautiful to our ears than the sounds of our own name. So it's exactly what Bret was just talking about. It's about going back to old school and how you built relationships, back when there was the corner guy, because he knew he was going to see you tomorrow. Treat people like you know you're going to see them tomorrow.
I love that.
In today's market, real trumps perfect. You're never going to have it perfect. If you wait for perfect, you'll never launch anything. Don't wait for the perfect strategy. Don't wait for the perfect day. Don't wait for the perfect meal, because real is what creates trust.
I'm going to retweet that and tag you. That was a quote from you.
I hope you do. And, that leads me into this conversation about how we talk to each other. So, we all know men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I like to say brands are from Mars and consumers are from Venus, and brands need to change the way they communicate. Now, think about that. Yes, ladies, the brands are the men, which means they don't listen. They stare over your shoulder and look at the ESPN scores, and all they want to do is tell you what they want you to hear. Okay, whereas consumers are from Venus. They want information. They want to share. They want to talk it out. They want to know. The best thing you can do is communicate with them. And brands, you people in your businesses. Now, I would say that this is a great learning experience for your relationships with your significant other. Although I will tell you, I've never been able to learn this lesson, so I don't expect you to. It's a lot harder in our personal lives with the person we live with to exercise this. But as a company, your very survival is dependent on it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm taking notes and I'm typing them in. As you post them in here. So I reposted, treat people like you will see them again tomorrow, because I think that is brilliant. And I think that's something that's really missing today. And I had a client come to me who offered to literally pay me, $24,000 for consulting advice, and say, hey, how do I build my business online? And it was just one simple question. I said, how many people a day are you talking to? And I said, here's your free advice. Just go talk to 5 customers a day. And she actually did that, and her business took off within 30 days. It was amazing.
That's fabulous. I love that. I'm just going to give a couple of important
Please.
tips here. Start listening. You know, it's a hard skill to learn, because we all want to speak. We want to speak our minds. We want to say something. And I'm sure a lot of you know that experience. When someone's talking to you, you're just biting at the bit to come back with what you want to say. It's like that old Seinfeld episode where somebody made a joke of George and he thought of the better comeback after he left the meeting. And all he wanted to do was get back in that meeting to use that comeback. But
yeah.
Start listening to people and actually hearing what they're saying. And by the way you let them know that is you do something about it. And that's how you make it about them. So if someone talks about something that is important to them, and let's just say you decide it's a great idea, give them credit for it. And you might say, well, you know, how many people that shop here can I give credit for things? It doesn't matter, because the other people know you gave credit to that person, and it's going to make them think they could be the next one that happens to. It's like the lottery. You know, when people buy a lottery ticket, what happens? The reason the lottery is so successful is they keep buying tickets because they're afraid that if they stop, their number's going to come up when they stop doing it. Make it about them. And when was the last time you walked into a store and someone actually said to you, how can I serve you? When was the last time you said it to somebody? Start thinking about, and by the way, it's not just the way you talk, it's the way you act. Think about this. Think about being on a plane. I use, flying a lot because it's a very stressful type of thing. And it's a very hard business for airlines. I mean, they can't fix most of what you want fixed. A plane's not taking off if the weather's bad or if the engine's broken. These things just can't get fixed overnight. It's not as easy as some other businesses. But think about a flight attendant. You're trying to stuff your bag in the overhead, and there's 2 ways this can be handled. And you've all seen this. The flight attendant goes up, and with a nasty look on her face, she goes, "Sir, that is not going to fit in there. I need to go gate check your bag." That guy is going to start pounding on that bag and doing everything he can to make it fit and to prove you wrong, and basically to do something you might not want him to do you. But if that same flight attendant smiles and goes, "Hello, sir, let me help you with that." It's very hard for people to interact badly when you treat them with respect. It's very hard to do. Aim for ongoing engagement. This is so important. How many of you guys on social, now think about this, in person, would you ever walk up to Bret, shake his hand, ask him a question, turn your back and walk away? Of course not. You'd stand there. I mean, sure, we all do. A lot of us do walk by people on the street and say, "How you doing?" And we don't wait to hear. I'd also give you a little suggestion. Try stopping and actually waiting to hear them give you an answer. It'll just be fun. Okay, that's just do that for fun. But when you ask someone a question on social, or if you're in the middle of a conversation, if you're going to step away from it, tell them you're stepping away. It's one thing if you just ask something in general, but if you're in a back and forth, how many times have you guys done this? You're in a back and forth, and then all of a sudden you do it or they do it, and it goes away for hours. Mm-hmm. That's just not the way to treat people, especially if you're a small business owner. And start looking people in the eye digitally. Start knowing what their names are, calling them by names, looking at their backgrounds, looking at their pages before you get on the phone with them. If you're a salesperson, don't ever get on that phone without going into that person's LinkedIn, without checking their Facebook. If one more person asks me if I'll be, in the city later today, and all they have to do is look at any of my social presences, and they know that I'm in Florida or that I'm on the beach. I mean, I'm obsessed with this, and I know it's hard because it takes time. None of this is easy. But if someone emails me something, I'm obsessed with just really quickly. Again, if it's a little answer, no big deal. But if they ask me something wrapped around an event or something, but I also love to just show them, like, "Oh, by the way, how's Vail, Colorado? I noticed you were there." By the way, it's not creepy if they're posting it.
Right.
Okay, and the other thing is to get away from creepiness. A lot of you guys have a problem with that. You say, "Hey, if we know too much." If you add value, the creepiness disappears. Creepiness is only there when you're trying to upsell somebody or sell them something they don't really want. But if you're helping them in their life, creepiness goes away. And it's like listening for moments. If you listen for moments and you make it personal and you use the information at the right time for the right reason. So I know we're running out of time, but I got to give you one more.
That's okay. Keep going. You're good.
I'm a divorced dad. And I had to fight to keep my daughters in my life. It's all online if you want to look at it, but it was really hard and complicated. And what I had to do at one point was rebuild my relationship with my daughters when they were tweens and turning into teens. So I learned by necessity to value every moment, to communicate the way they want to communicate. So I'm with my daughter, and for the first time ever, I'm with my younger daughter alone at dinner with her older sister not there, at a cheesecake factory. And out of nowhere, first time ever, she starts talking about boys. Now, again, remember, I'm not the dad that's there every night at dinner because it's every other weekend, and I usually have them on weekends, not during the week, so I don't get the regular conversation. And out of nowhere, she did it. And thank God, I was evolved enough as a dad and as a man to know to shut up and listen. And I just sat there, and it was like the sky had opened up and God was shining down on me. My daughter's telling me how they call the boys by code names. They call them by colors: red, blue, orange, green, so that they could talk about the boys in front of them without the boys knowing which one they were talking about. And I am just sucking this up. I am in the moment. And then what happens? The damn waitress comes, drops the check on the table, and she ends the moment the same way your customer leaves the store or leaves the conversation or moves on to another product. My daughter moved on. And what did she do? She grabbed her device. She started communicating with her friends. She goes, "Dad, let's pay the check and get out of here." Now, here I am as a dad, but as you as a merchant, as a business person, I was desperate to get back in that moment. I would do anything inappropriate or in any way to get back into that conversation. So I'm just waiting, just like you as a business person, I was waiting to pounce. My daughter, we're in the car, she's on the phone, she's doing 5 different things at once. She's Snapchatting, she's making faces into the phone, she's talking to her girlfriend. We get home, we pull in the driveway, she walks off to the side because she was at that point talking to her girlfriend to finish her conversation away from me. And I waited for her downstairs. Now, ladies, I swear I was not eavesdropping. It was dark down there. I was worried about her. But again, I was the marketer waiting for my moment. And the second she put down the phone, I jumped in and said, "So, well, who were you talking about, Blue?" Now, ladies, don't cover your eyes because I know what you're thinking. Oh, my God, he didn't say that. Because she looked at me like, who the hell are you? We never had that conversation. The same way your clients are looking at you when you try to sell them something extra or you offer them a discount code for their next trip 2 seconds after they walk out. Why didn't you give it to them when you're in? So I'm a fast learner. And I immediately learned, shut up. I let the conversation end. I didn't keep driving forward to get into it. And I took that information and I put it in my database the same way you need to. And I put it away for when it would become valuable again. 6 months later, I'm on a trip to Ixtapa, Mexico. First trip out of the country with my daughters. I'm at Club Med. My 2 daughters, they're 15 and 17 at the time. They are paying absolutely no attention to me. An entire week of maybe I'm getting a couple of meals, then they're off by themselves. They're doing stuff. They're even laying in their in their lounges, not talking to me. And all of a sudden, my older daughter had enough. She wanted to be left alone by her younger daughter, who always needs attention. And she said, "Leave me alone. I'm reading my book. I'm not going in the water with you." And out of nowhere, I hear those elusive words, "Dad, will you come in the water with me?" I'm laying on a hammock, and inside I am jumping up and down. Fireworks are going off, but on the outside, I remained cool as a cucumber. "No, really? Are you sure?" "Yeah, Dad, come on." So I very slowly and methodically and casually walk over to the ocean. We go in together, and we're not in there for 3 seconds when she looks at me and says, "Dad, I was Skyping with Lori, and she was talking to me about orange." Now, not only was this an opportunity, but it was also a test. Was I paying attention? Did I remember? And I looked at her, I said, "Well, what about Blue? How did he feel about that?" And I was immediately back in the moment. I made my sale. I had my moment in the sun, and I enhanced my relationship for the next interaction. And this is what you have to do in your business, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or you're a small business in a small town. Connect with people the way they want to be connected with, when they want to be connected with, and use the information appropriately.
Awesome. And we are going to have to wrap it up. So is there, I know you have an awesome free gift that was available. So is that something, can you give that away?
Absolutely. Just real quick before we do, I'm going to jump through some of these slides. Look, I talk about.
I'm sorry. I should have gave you the high sign about 5 minutes ago. But
I just want to end with 2 things here. First of all, I want to tell your audience to try new things. Don't be afraid of Periscope, Blab, and Snapchat. Doesn't mean you have to put them in your business, but try them just so you understand them, so you get to use them. If you're a senior executive in a Fortune 500 company, you need to understand these platforms. And last thing I want you to say is, you know what doesn't work for social media strategy? Not being social. So yes, I am giving away a free gift. It's 12 steps to increasing and building return on relationship with your audience, with your friends, with just about anybody. Again, this is really geared towards business, though, although a lot of it can be used in your personal life. If you go to RORpro.com, very simple, RORPRO.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, get your free gift, get the 12 steps, and I would love to continue a relationship with you. So like I said earlier, my number is 516-270-5511. My email address is tedrubin@gmail.com. I am at Ted Rubin on every social platform. So find me there. If you reach out to me, I will reach back, because relationships are like muscle tissue. The more you engage them, the stronger and more valuable they become.
That was absolutely fantastic, Ted. I appreciate you so much coming on. Just a reminder for everybody, if you haven't done it yet, go to www.rorpro.com. You can see this is what it looks like here. And you can download the 12 most important ways to build relationships and get ROR now. You're going to love it. I loved what you just talked about. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And where else can people follow you on Twitter?
Well, if you go to @TedRubin, it has all my other Twitter handles. A couple of the ones that might be relevant to your audience besides all the business ones is I have a handle called @Parenting. PARENTNG, is just missing that last I, and very active there. I have a mom blogger that works with me on that, so it's not just dad's point of view, it's a mom's point of view. And then, you know, the whole thing stemming from the fight for my kids, I have a Twitter handle, This Dad Won't Quit, and this dad will never quit. No matter what he gets back, I will always be there for my girls, no matter what, anytime, anywhere, for any reason.
Awesome. That was fantastic. And I did post, I missed the parenting handle, but I got your twitter.com/Ted Rubin. So if you want to go there, what was the parenting handle?
It's just parenting without the I at the end. PARENTNG.
Thank you. Okay, got it. All right. So that's where you can follow him on Twitter. Thank you so much. That was super awesome. Our audience was really engaged. And so guys, if you liked that, if you liked what Ted just wrote, please write the word value, because I got a huge amount of value out of that. Ted, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
My pleasure, Brett. Thank you for reaching out. And also thanks to your team. Jana is fabulous. You guys do a great job with follow-up, and you got a lot to be proud of.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so for everybody else, I will just mention one other quick thing. If you next week, we're going to be doing a free live class called the Lucrative Like Formula. I'll be teaching the Lucrative Like Formula. So if you're interested in signing up, this is a program. We're actually going to sell this for $1,000 in the future, but we're going to do the class live. So if you attend live, you can actually get it for free. Just go to the facebook.com/LikeBrett, and we just posted it about 20 minutes ago, so you can get there and sign up. So with that, otherwise, we will be seeing you on our live call again next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Ted. Thank all of you for showing up. Melinda, Jack, Claudia, Abino, Maha, Angela, everybody here, Rashawn, Maureen, everybody, you guys are amazing. Love you much. We'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.